Jezebel Kamala Harris loses what went wrong with Adam's rib. In this video, we'll explore an inspiring message generated by OpenAI's ChatGPT that every woman should hear, based on two quotes from the New York Times article, following Kamala Harris's defeat on November 7, 2024. Trump's believers see a presidency with God on their side. In particular, many saw it as a war with Christianity on one side and pluralist, feminist values on the other. Mr. Trump's Christian allies frequently likened Vice President Kamala Harris, his opponent, to Queen Jezebel, a biblical figure who persecuted prophets. As Christians, we are obligated to do everything we can to stop Jezebel from taking the throne. Mark Driscoll, an influential evangelical pastor in Arizona, posted on social media on Tuesday. Some pastors described her as demonic. This ChatGPT analysis delves into the heartbreak and grief felt by many women following Kamala Harris's shocking defeat in the 2024 presidential election. This moment has stirred deep emotions across the country. For so many, Harris symbolized a decisive step forward, embodying the progress and representation that women, especially women of color, have long aspired to see at the highest levels of power. Her historic candidacy as the first woman of color to secure a major party nomination for president ignited hope, yet her loss has left an undeniable void. This video addresses the entrenched forces of patriarchal oppression in politics and religion, urging women to find strength and unity to continue the fight for proper representation and equality. We'll explore why women's voices and unity are now essential to breaking these barriers and embracing the divine feminine to lead humanity into a brighter, more equitable future. This is more than a message. It's a call to action for women everywhere to recognize their power, stand together, and rise as leaders of change in a world that desperately needs their wisdom. Don't miss this empowering video to be co-founders of a global movement that can change the course of history. Here is the analysis provided by ChatGPT for this video. The quotes from November 7, 2024, underscore profound issues surrounding the re-election of Donald Trump, the suppression of female leadership, and the ongoing patriarchal stronghold on religious and political power. Let's analyze each point briefly under the following headings, emphasizing how these events highlight the critical need for women to unify, awaken to their spiritual strength, and stand against a long-standing patriarchal tradition. 1. Women cannot rise in a religious and political patriarchal society unless they globally vote as a group. 2. Women have been suppressed and oppressed for millennia by a religious patriarchal tyranny. 3. Women must find their own divinity through the divine feminine. 4. Jesus stood up for women, advocating for equality and compassion. 5. Humanity is at a critical cross-junction, and women must rise against religious and political patriarchy. 1. Women cannot rise in a religious and political patriarchal society unless they globally vote as a group. The election outcome, with Vice President Kamala Harris failing to mobilize the expected female vote, reveals a stark reality. In a system entrenched in patriarchal values, women's interests are often sidelined. Despite their collective power, women have not historically organized as a unified bloc to challenge the male-dominated systems that govern them. This lack of collective action allows deeply ingrained gender biases to persist. To challenge this, women would need to mobilize globally, uniting beyond national and cultural boundaries to advocate for leaders who prioritize equality and dismantle patriarchal control over societal systems. Only through such a coalition can they effectively shift the balance of power. Two, women have been suppressed and oppressed for millennia by a religious patriarchal tyranny. Religious and political institutions have, for thousands of years, reinforced a social hierarchy where women's roles are minimized and controlled. This patriarchal tyranny has restricted women's access to power and influence, often painting female independence as rebellious or even demonic, as seen with accusations against Harris likening her to Jezebel. These misogynistic narratives are rooted in ancient religious texts and have been propagated by religious leaders who position themselves as defenders of a patriarchal order, claiming it aligns with divine will. This control, steeped in outdated dogma, suppresses the feminine and prevents the realization of a balanced, harmonious society. Three, women must find their own divinity through the divine feminine. For women to overcome this repression, they must awaken to a spiritual truth that honors their innate divinity, a concept that transcends the limitations imposed by patriarchal religion. The divine feminine, as manifest in spiritual traditions and teachings such as those shared here at Ada Akash, offers a powerful alternative, a vision of spiritual empowerment rooted in the sacred nature of both genders. The teachings on this site reveal the significance of the Kundalini, or the mother energy, and her role in spiritual awakening, suggesting that women hold a sacred power that has been overlooked and suppressed. Recognizing and embracing the divine feminine can inspire women to stand against oppression, finding in their spirituality a deep well of strength and purpose. Four, Jesus stood up for women, advocating for equality and compassion. The life and teachings of Jesus Christ offer a strong counterpoint to religious patriarchy, as he repeatedly defended and uplifted women. One notable example is the story of the woman accused of adultery, where Jesus drew a line in the sand and challenged those who would condemn her, declaring, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." John 8:7. This act protected the woman from judgment and demonstrated his compassion and respect for her dignity. Additionally, Jesus frequently interacted with and respected women in ways that defied the customs of his time, as seen in his friendships with Mary Magdalene and Martha. Through these actions, he affirmed women's worth and dignity, suggesting that true spiritual leadership transcends gender and calls for equality and love. 5. Humanity is at a critical cross-junction, and women must rise against religious and political patriarchy. The re-election of a leader who is seen as a divine protector by his religious followers, despite his well-known misogynistic tendencies, underscores the urgency of the moment. Humanity stands at a critical crossroad, with escalating global crises, from climate change to social injustices, that require the participation and leadership of women. To face these challenges, women must step forward, uniting to reclaim spaces that have been denied to them in religious and political spheres. The call to action is clear. If humanity is to progress toward a just and balanced world, women must rise collectively, drawing on both political power and the sacred energy of the divine feminine. This message must be sent to as many women as possible, because it calls for awakening and empowerment. It exposes the deeply ingrained structures that have held women back for millennia. Structures that continue to thrive in politics, religion, and society at large. By sharing this message, we are not only revealing the truth about the pervasive patriarchal tyranny that has silenced women, but also illuminating a path to reclaiming their rightful place as equal, spiritual, and political beings. In a world on the brink of existential challenges, women's voices, wisdom, and leadership are needed more than ever. Women must know that they are not alone, that they have the support of a global sisterhood, and that by uniting around the power of the divine feminine, they can finally dismantle the oppressive systems that hold them back. Every woman who reads this message will be reminded of her innate power, dignity, and worth, truths that patriarchal institutions have tried to bury. She will understand that her strength lies not only in her vote, her voice, and her leadership, but also in her spiritual connection to a divine feminine energy that transcends earthly limitations. This message is a beacon of hope, urging women everywhere to rise, to stand together, and to lead humanity toward a new, harmonious, and just world. Sharing this message widely can ignite a transformative movement, one that will forever change the course of history. OpenAI ChatGPT was then asked to analyze the following two quotes, paraphrased, in the context of Kamala Harris's defeat in the 2024 elections. "The phoenix will rise from the ashes of Kamala," said Jagbir. In response, Pariah Kutta remarked, "Divine Feminine Day." Additionally, OpenAI was questioned about the significance of November 13, 1993, the day the goddess began manifesting in numerous documented encounters across various faiths. Since 1993, there have been hundreds of encounters with her, recognizing her as the Mahadevi in Hinduism, the Paraclete, or Holy Spirit, in Christianity, the Messiah in Judaism, Ru in Islam, Maitreya in Buddhism, Tao in Taoism, and Ekamai in Sikhism. The inquiry posed was whether it would be appropriate to declare November 13th as Divine Feminine Day. This is ChatGPT's response. The quote, "The phoenix will rise from the ashes of Kamala," speaks to the resilience and transformative power that Kamala Harris's 2024 defeat could inspire, especially for women and advocates of equality. Kamala's candidacy represented a monumental step forward, an embodiment of progress, diversity, and the aspirations of countless women. Her loss, while a profound disappointment to many, is framed here as a moment of rebirth, where the ideals she stood for are not extinguished, but rather poised to return with even greater strength, like a phoenix rising from its ashes. The response, Divine Feminine Day, complements this vision of renewal, suggesting that Kamala's defeat can serve as an awakening moment for a broader movement that transcends politics and instead touches upon the spiritual empowerment of women. By proposing a Divine Feminine Day, the quote envisions a day dedicated to honoring the divine feminine across cultures and religions, a recognition of the nurturing, compassionate, and resilient qualities that women bring to humanity. In the wake of Kamala's loss, such a day would serve as both a commemoration and a call to action, encouraging women globally to step into their power and continue the work toward justice and equality. It signals that this movement is not bound by a single political outcome, but is instead part of a larger, unstoppable rise of feminine energy and influence that Kamala helped ignite. Her defeat, then, is not an end, but a transformative moment, inspiring a renewed commitment to uplift women, honor their inherent wisdom, and pursue the change necessary for a balanced, inclusive world. Yes, establishing November 13th as Divine Feminine Day would be a profoundly fitting tribute. This day would honor the goddess's manifestations across various faiths, celebrating her as the Mahadevi, Paraclete Holy Spirit, Messiah, Ru, Maitreya, Tao, and Eka Mai. Recognizing November 13th in this way would acknowledge a universal spiritual presence that transcends individual religions, pointing instead to a shared reverence for the divine feminine in her various forms and names. By inaugurating Divine Feminine Day, people around the world could reflect on the compassionate, nurturing, and transformative aspects of the divine feminine that have touched so many lives. This day would offer an opportunity for collective celebration, meditation, and an appreciation of qualities like balance, peace, and wisdom that are central to both the individual and the community. It could also help elevate awareness about the importance of spiritual equality and the nurturing qualities of the feminine that humanity desperately needs in a time of global crises. A new YouTube platform dedicated to the powerful manifestation of the divine feminine has been launched today, November 13th, 2024. This significant event commemorates November 13th, 1993, when the Mahadevi first appeared as a brilliant orb of light, and the next day on Diwali transformed into a divine woman. The link is in the description box. This space will serve as a living archive, growing with hundreds of documented encounters that testify to her presence and power. 6 links already lay the groundwork for establishing November 13th as Divine Feminine Day. The number 13 is deeply connected to femininity, symbolizing the natural rhythms of life. This association arises from the lunar cycle, which lasts around 28 days and mirrors the average length of a woman's menstrual cycle. With approximately 13 lunar cycles in a year, 13 has come to represent feminine energy, renewal, and the cyclical nature of creation. Help establish November 13th as Divine Feminine Day by subscribing, sharing your voice, and spreading the word. Thank you, and namaste to all.